Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journey, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2022. And specifically, I'd like to focus on this release, which was made by Criterion earlier this year, which is Michael Haneke Trilogy. And this is a release that has a number of films. Today, I'd like to focus our attention on one such film. This is a work, again, from Michael Haneke, and this is from the year 1992. And the name of the work is Benny's Video. This is the work from the year 1992 from the filmmaker Michael Haneke, and it has in its really stellar and captivating cast people like Arno Frisch and Angela Winkler and Ulrich Mühe and others. And please pardon me for my poor pronunciation of the language. I hope you can forgive me. But this is a work which is very powerful, very startling, very direct, and quite shocking in a lot of places, and also very confrontational. And also, like with many a work by Haneke, it seeks to ask questions of the viewer, and this film does so, and then some. It is the work which is Benny's Video. Benny's Video is a film that could be said to be, if we were to try to focus on the plot of Benny's Video, I think we could focus once again, like a previous work that could be found in this release, this Criterion set. It could be said to be focusing in on the family unit or the family structure. And we have a seemingly well-to-do family with the children and the parents. And in particular, one of the children here in question is the Arno Frisch character, Benny in question. And we see his interactions with his family and other members of his family, maybe his friend circle, as I say, in this situation that in terms of modern day, modern day living or urban living, and financially well-off urban city living and that sort of thing. It seems to be a situation that in terms of surface level, there is a lot of benefit, there's a lot of, success, and there's also a lot of opportunity that is afforded to Benny and people within his close circle. And so those are the things, the environmental, traits that can be said to be part of the overall makeup. Now, that's not the end of the story, of course, because we also have images interwoven with the overall, textual filmic language of Haneke and company. So we have the story that also has placed within it video images. And these video images, we understand, are maybe taken from maybe Benny's point of view, and or they are being applied from the filmmaker's perspective. And these are images that show some aspects of life from a different vantage point, a different lens, say a different frame rate or a different, technological medium that's being applied. And so here we have this idea of looking or seeing or observing or viewing from what is arguably a different vantage point. It could be arguably the same subject matter, the same room, the same environment, but again, we have a different way of looking. Now, this also affords us, the viewer, the opportunity to see other scenes maybe outside the realm of the environment, and we are, in fact, confronted with one such scene quite early on, in fact, in the opening moments of this film, and it is a very startling image. It is a very startling and shocking image that has to do with life and death. And this image in the hands of, say, this video creation does a number of things from the outset. It, again, shows us the stark reality of life and death, but it also shows how this stark reality of life and death can be, in a sense, manipulated or maybe changed in terms of time and space, forward and reverse playback. And this could also then lead itself to the possible interpretation of the application of various sorts of media, various sorts of, say, mass market consumable media, as exemplified or in terms of the metaphor of the video image. How this could have an effect of either showing us different aspects of, quote unquote, the stark reality, perhaps directly giving us, in maybe photographic, almost documentary-like terms, the stark nature of this reality, or it could show us the malleability and or the manipulation aspect of the video image, thus, for instance, in the form of the forward or playback motion that, in a sense, reverses time and thus reverses actions that can, in a sense, reverse actions that have a life and death quality about them, thus creating an almost innocent, naive sense of an almost a malleable sense of what reality is perceived to be versus what it actually is. And so this, I think, lends itself to the possible interpretation that video image, and perhaps by extension, mass media, consumable mass media, has a way of potentially, probably, possibly, perhaps, manipulating and perhaps distorting one's viewpoint as to what reality is perceived to be versus what reality is. Now, this is, again, I think, but one of many possible interpretation routes of this work, Benny's video, but it can be taken to its sort of logical extreme as we watch this film. And again, not going into too many details of the plot for the benefit of those who have not yet seen this brilliant, disturbing and brilliant work, Benny's video. But there are ways in which this idea of the video image and the idea of reality or perceived reality, or a sense of trying to get a sense of what is happening in the space of the video versus what is happening in real life, and how we might try to process that information, or maybe accurately or inaccurately might be able to process that information, perhaps due to maybe some kind of deep-rooted psychological impulse of self-preservation, the idea of maybe eradicating a sense of guilt, either consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously. Or perhaps there is not even the sense of guilt, but perhaps there's nothing to eradicate because the use of the video image is manipulating one's perception in such a way so as to not even create the sense of guilt to begin with. And so I think those are two of many possibilities in terms of how video is integrated into the very plot of Benny's video. It's in the title itself, Benny's video. And indeed, there is a sense of distancing, or there's a sense of the possibility of the application of this type of technology in the clinical presentation of habitual lifestyles that are shown in the context of the example of this family here. That is the focus of Haneke's work here, Benny's video. But there's a sense in which this application of technology is being shown or portrayed to perhaps be either a contributor to this distance, or maybe a tool by which, or utensil by which this distance is applied. So if the latter is the case, of course, then the idea is who is at fault, if fault is to be assigned to begin with. Is it the technology itself, or is it that which is applying the technology? And I think there are many different possible interpretations. And indeed, there is also there are many strains and many avenues at play here in this work, Benny's video. There is, of course, as I mentioned, the link between the video image, cinema, and the application of consumable mass market media and the malleability or manipulation of perceptions of reality. There's also linked with that a sense of the family life and class, and also maybe neglect or lack of neglect. Again, these are questions that are posed, but they are not necessarily given direct answers, at least in the context of a direct viewing of the film. In other words, one might see certain clues or hints within the family structure of the story, Benny's video, that may or may not lead us to into one direction or another. Perhaps there are certain clues that might give us a sense of maybe there's a sense of parental neglect or irresponsibility. Or perhaps the opposite is true. Maybe there are indications of, in fact, no, there is actual parental attention being given, and quite within a reasonable range, outside the realm of what might be called negligence, etc. Definitely not negligent. But in either case, we still have certain actions or activities that are the subject of the plot, Benny's video. And so no matter what avenue of interpretation one adopts, we still are confronted with a series of very shocking and very startling and quite confrontational plot points that, again, depending on one's interpretation, one can see, say, the root cause of this or that. Again, the film doesn't give us answers directly. It provides questions. It gives us information. But there's also a way in which there is a sense of a clinical way in which information is presented, thus giving us the opportunity, us the viewers, the opportunity to try to form our own interpretation and reading of this film. And there could be multiple readings going on at once. And so one such realm of the possible readings is, say, the family structure and how this type of intimate bond or lack of bond, whatever the case may be, might have something to do with the situations and circumstances that the characters undergo and choose to undergo throughout the course of this film. And I'm talking about the parents, I'm talking about the children, I'm talking about the people within and without, inside and outside this inner circle. And so, because that also leads to another strand of this work, which is the way in which the family unit is connected vis-a-vis externalities. And here we begin to see certain aspects of the way in which the family unit is trying to maybe react to or respond to potential reactions or responses or threats from the outside world, from the external world. And I mean specifically how they operate within modern society, because this is a modern society with rules and regulations, with laws and order, with cause and effect, with actions and consequences. And those actions or consequences are reflected in, say, laws, criminal laws. And so it is the way in which these characters are reacting or are being agitated towards one area or another, or are making choices in one area or another in the light of the potential ramifications under this system of rules and laws and regulations and order. Law and order, as it were. And so where there is a situation of law and order, there are actions and consequences. And so how the characters react in this environment, what choices the characters make within this environment is also very key too. And the choices that they make, and I'm speaking of all the main characters of this film, the choices that they make seem to then reflect a little bit, perhaps, probably, of who they are within themselves and how they view themselves in the context of this society. And I mean this, too, in a very important way, because societal context and sort of a community context is also something that can be said to be very much part of the Haneke viewing experience. This idea of what is the root cause, or what are the root causes of the actions that are taken by people who are part of this so-called part of this society. And so we see things that seem to be, at face value, seems to be things or actions that are very much out of whack, out of the ordinary sync of things, or these things seem to be on the extreme, outside of the normal order of things. And I use air quotes when I use that phrase, because these things might be seen, these actions or activities in Benny's video might be seen to be somewhere outside of the system of law and order, outside of law, in other words, criminal. Or they could be seen to be things that are actually inherent within the system that we are living in, and that these therefore are natural or organic consequences of the life and society that we find ourselves in. And if we subscribe to the latter interpretation, and I'm suggesting that not one interpretation dominates over the other, which is one of the brilliant things of Haneke's work, Benny's video, is that there is room for so many interpretations. But if we were to subscribe to the latter interpretation over the former, then what that means is actually a very frightening and very disturbing conclusion indeed, because what that means, therefore, is that these sorts of acts, and they're very chilling and disturbing acts indeed, that we are witness to when we watch a work like Benny's video, we have come to the conclusion that perhaps these are not just inherent within society, but that they are perhaps, therefore, inescapable. And if that's the case, then there is a universal reach, potentially anyway, that is the consequences or ramifications of such reading are very chilling indeed. They're chilling not just because of the potential effect that we might imagine ourselves if we were to find ourselves in similar situations in terms of victimization, but also the opposite too. If we were to find ourselves on the opposite side of that coin, in terms of a moral pit of say, disturbing choices to be made, that too is not outside the realm of possibility in the line of this interpretation. That is an example, therefore, of where Benny's video and works like Benny's video, say other works in the trilogy that are part of this Criterion set as an example, how these works really illuminate, highlight, and also chill to the bone. They are very chilling because the choices that are made and the interpretations that lead to such choices could be they could be closer to home than one might initially realize. And if that type of potential, say, consideration from a cinematic viewing perspective at least, is possible, then that shows the true depth of a work like Benny's video indeed. And it is a very compelling and very charged, and it is a very challenging work indeed in that respect. And so therefore, it does bring about with it so many questions, and the answers, I think, are up to us in a lot of ways. And depending on how we read the film, I think we can derive a number of possibly different answers, perhaps more than one alternate interpretation simultaneously. Again, the brilliance of a work like Benny's video is that it provides us with this room. It shares with us this information. It shares with us this information in a very clear way, and yet also provides a sense of distance. This distance also yields the possibility of glimpses into possible reasonings of the characters themselves, sort of emotional points of the film that are definitely there. Emotions that maybe we can interpret as being emotional reactions or breakdowns or guilt or remorse or elation or joy or satisfaction or maybe responsibility. Or none of the above. Who knows? Maybe we interpret that the characters' depictions are totally bereft of any of these types of emotional responses. If that's the case too, that also leads to a very chilling set of conclusions indeed. But that is still within the realm of possibility of a really far-reaching and quite consequential work like Haneke's Benny's video. It is a very, very compelling work indeed. And I'm very glad it is part of this trilogy for further consideration and further digesting and further maybe elaboration and further thought, because it is a work that really engenders such thought and such debate and such room for possible interpretations. And no matter what route one adopts, I would suggest that each route carries with it its own set of not just possibilities, but also its own set of challenging consequences that makes for very compelling viewing indeed. This is the work from Michael Haneke, which is Benny's video. The Criterion Collection has released this film, Benny's video, on the second Blu-ray disc of this set, which is the Michael Haneke trilogy set. Now I'm showing it like this. So this is the set itself. It's in this plastic casing, and you have the 3 discs. For purposes of today's video, I have put the second disc on this side of the casing just to display it in this video using the stand here. So, but please note that it is the second of 3 Blu-ray discs that can be found with this set. As I indicated in another video, this set is assigned the spine number of 1163, but the films themselves are not given their own separate spine number, so just keep that in mind. The spine number is assigned to the set overall, but within that set, of course, we have the films, one of which being Benny's video from 1992. And I've taken the liberty of removing the booklet prior to the start of this video because I want to read the excerpt, which is from the final page, page 20, about the master. The seventh continent, Benny's video, and 71 fragments of a chronology of chance are presented in their original aspect ratio of 1.66 to 1, supervised by director Michael Haneke. These digital masters were created in high definition from the 35mm original camera negatives. So that's a word about the high definition sources that are used for purposes of this release of Benny's video. Now, going to the disc itself, the second disc, we not only have the film, but we also have the supplements. And so the supplements can be said to be tied directly to this work, Benny's video. And so what are they? So the first supplement that can be found is, again, from 2005. This is a continuation of the discussion between Michael Haneke and Sergei Tobiana, and this is approximately 20 minutes. This is focusing primarily on Benny's video. And so this is great too, again, for more information, more elaboration or possible elaboration from Michael Haneke himself. We get some comments here about, for instance, the reason that he wanted to make the film, or the reasons that he shares here for wanting to make the film. He read about this, again, much like some of the other films that are talked about in the set. He read about this, or he says he read about this in terms of a newspaper account, a news report. And so, again, this was something that had a lot of, say, maybe a news-related fascination about it in terms of a media-reported item. But that also is, I think, part of the conversation or dialogue that Haneke is engaging with, as he is, in a sense, recreating this, or in a sense, examining this, or recreating this dialogue and making it part of the discussion as far as the film Benny's video goes. So this is very, very, very important indeed. And again, too, within that, or layered within that, of course, is the idea of the idea of a sense of, say, a characterization or ownership of self via the media. And so it is very clear from Haneke's discussion here that the media consumability aspect, or the mass market media, or the way in which video and film are intertwined in a way to suggest a maybe dialogue between the viewer and media itself. I think this is also part of the conversation, very, very integral part of the conversation, and how that maybe there's a sense of what he calls manipulation and destabilization. Now, this goes into some of the heart of the cinematic technique of Haneke, which is very, very precise and very important. And it goes to the way, for example, image and sound are connecting, or perhaps clashing with each other, which is such a fascinating concept in the hands of Haneke. So, for example, there are scenes that involve video images and things that we see projected on a screen that are being recorded by a video camera sort of in real time as we're watching the film. So we have the understanding of that setup, and we see the image projected on a screen, and we hear the sound that is happening of that activity that is being videotaped at that same time. So we see the image on a screen, and also we hear the activity because we're in the same space, in the same room. So what Haneke does in this conversation, to bring this up as an example of his technique and craft, he says there is on purpose a type of destabilization aspect that is at work here, and a way that is meant to put the viewer off balance, almost as in a way to confuse the viewer in terms of different directional, say, stimulus. The first stimulus direction is that of the, say, image, because the image has a sense of what he calls of a type of, how should I say, a type of manipulation, to the point of the way that the image is, say, distorted, or there's a sense of a video-like quality to it, and it's shot and close up in a way to suggest a type of distance with reality. However, what we are hearing at the same time is this idea of the noise or sound, or the voices that are being emitted, or that are being made by the people or activities that are being videotaped at the same time. There's a sense of immediacy with those noises, especially the types of noises that we hear. The stark reality sets in with what we hear, versus a type of distance that we feel when we see the image. So a distance with one aspect, but yet a stark closeness with another aspect. So this is a different, these are different directional stimuli that are happening at the same time. And this has the effect, the purposely applied effect of destabilization of the viewer. And this is brilliant. This is really brilliant. And what this does, therefore, it has this dual meaning, or perhaps multi-purpose meaning, which is the type of way in which maybe images can be manipulated. Thus, reality, or our perception of reality, can be manipulated via the image. But it is also the point that reality is inescapable because of the sounds that are being emitted. And so there's a way, too, that the sounds, at least in the world of Benny's video, and the example is set forth in Benny's video, there's a way in which there's a type of endurance factor that is expressed via sound. And this also leads a really nice segue into Haneke's, say, a commitment to this idea of the soundscape. It also reminds us, too, about his background and study with regard to music and the like. And so there's a sense of a type of direct nature to it. Although it might be interesting then to further take this to another step and maybe make a consideration about whether, to what extent sound and the soundscape can also be subject to the same or similar type of manipulation as the image manipulation that he speaks of here vis-a-vis reality. So it's also possible perhaps that sound too is subject to the same type of sonic manipulation. If that's the case, then there is also either maybe a unidirectional sense of stimulus going on, or perhaps that can always be averted by maintaining a sense of destabilization. One aspect going one way and the other aspect always going the other way. So it's a fascinating conversation all around, and it has further implications going forward. But in any event, in the hands of Haneke, what this means is he is using the cinema language of sound and image in bi-directional ways, but it's bidirectional to a point, and it's the point is to destabilize, and the destabilization effect arguably is in the conscious mind of the viewer, the subconscious mind of the viewer, such as myself, is to alert, and also is to make very uncomfortable, is also to make one feel quite uneasy with what one is, with the stuff that one is watching and hearing. And that makes for, I think, further, dare I say it, further potential chilling association with the subject matter, and thus with the characters that are going through the stuff as we are watching it. And so we have this ability, I think, of not just destabilization, not just bidirectional routes in terms of sound and image, but also bidirectionality in terms of our associations with the people and characters that we're watching during these key moments of the film. Can we associate with, say, quote unquote, the victim of these certain activities or actions, or perhaps are we associating somehow with the aggressor side, or maybe a little bit of both? Who knows? I mean, these are some of the questions that do emerge and do arise, and not just on an intellectual level, but also potentially on a type of emotional level, thanks to the way in which cinema is being applied in the hands of Haneke. And this is one of the compelling and very very disturbing aspects of Haneke's cinema, but it's done so in a way that, again, it's on purpose, and it has a certain design, and it has a certain a focus as well, because it's meant, therefore, to lead to certain possible conclusions about what it means in terms of interaction with a source media material, such as the video screen or the sounds that are being emitted, etc., and what that says about our means of consumption in this mass media market society that we are living in terms of the output or outgrowth of modern day living. That is, I think, even more prevalent and even more relevant in the times that we are living in now, in 2022, nearly 2023, etc. So there are so many questions that are being raised here that are very, very compelling indeed. So this is a great point that Haneke brings up here. Also, too, the not just the technological aspects of that and sort of the societal grasp of that, but also in terms of the immediate and the emotional and the quote-unquote human or individual micro level, or the intimate level. This idea of the concept of guilt. How is guilt, or how is remorse, how is this registered? Is it registered at all? If so, how is it registered? are we therefore to maybe try to infer this, or maybe is it not there to begin with? Are some of the characters totally bereft of this type of experience, or are they expressing it in a way that is somehow alienating to others, such as the viewer, or are they expressing it in a way that is very much understandable to us, the viewer? And if that's the case, is it really authentic indeed, or is it something that is ephemeral, or just something for a type of theatrical effect, etc.? And those sorts of questions, I think, lead to even further compelling and quite complex, challenging follow-up questions indeed. But this concept of guilt that Haneke brings up here is also very important too, because then it also leads to a potential yet another layer of this, which is it's writ large societal reach or community reach, or maybe a national identity reach that has certain ramifications in terms of the commentary that it might have vis-a-vis European history, Austrian history as well. And so this point is also brought up as another potential interpretation point. And it's also a discussion point too about how certain audiences, say in Austria, reacted to the film versus audiences elsewhere in Europe, and also the rest of the world might have reacted to the film as well. So these and other points make this conversation with Michael Haneke really illuminating, valuable, and fascinating indeed. So please check this out if you haven't already. Please, yes, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So this is the 2005 discussion with Michael Haneke, approximately 20 minutes. That's not all, because then we have a one-on-one discussion with the one of the actors of the film, Arno Frisch, and this is a discussion which is given the title Latchkey Kid, Arno Frisch on Benny's Video. And this is described as being from 2018, approximately 24 minutes. Over my shoulder, I have the Criterion release of Funny Games. And in fact, there is a conversation with Arno Frisch on that particular film. And it looks to me like this supplement here for Benny's Video seems to be maybe in the same recording session as that for Funny Games. I mean, the year 2018 seems to fit. So that's my best guess in terms of when this was recorded. In any event, it's great to have his comments directly on Benny's Video. He also starts very fascinatingly with this idea of videotape and physical media collecting and the like, which is so cool, which is really a neat thing. And it's also linked very directly too with some of the details of Benny, the character, and the videotape, and how that is affecting sort of his environment and his way of interacting with certain aspects of, say, entertainment, reality, passing the time, city living, or urban or modern day living, as a manner of speaking. So very important stuff indeed. Also, he talks about the age, the lifestyle and the age, and how that figures into his character of Benny as well, and also the concept of the video camera, how this is also a very important key concept. Also talking about certain scenes that were quite difficult to shoot. And again, I don't want to go into too many details here, but there are some very intense moments, very intense moments, and he talks a little bit about shooting those scenes with some of the other actors that were involved there, and how there was a lot of intensity going on here. So these are among many reasons why this discussion with Arno Frisch is so brilliant, so illuminating, and very thought-provoking, and it's really I mean, his manner of speaking too is very direct, very calm, very welcoming, and very honest and earnest. It's so wonderful to hear his comments about this, and to hear his comments again, because, as I say, he does appear, or his comments do appear, in other releases. So it's great to hear this conversation with Arno Frisch on his work in Benny's Video. This conversation is approximately 24 minutes. Please check it out if you can. And that's not all in terms of the supplements, because then we have a section which is called Deleted Scenes. This is approximately 14 minutes, and there are a number of deleted scenes that are included here, along with a sort of commentary or discussion from Haneke and Tobiana, which is described as being from 2005. And again, I don't want to go into too many details, again, for the benefit of those who have not yet seen the film or the deleted scenes, but there is a general character of the deleted scenes, we can say, in terms of what maybe the video type nature of these scenes overall. Maybe they occur in a particular section of the film, in terms of environments that are visited and the like. And so there's also commentary in terms of why they were shot, why, what some of the reasons were for maybe removing them or excising them from the final product. But overall, they do add a sense of further elaboration into the characters in question. So this is very valuable stuff indeed. It's wonderful to get this deleted scenes footage. So please check this out if you can, totaling overall 14 minutes. And then rounding out the supplements, we have a trailer to Benny's video. And so here we have, I think, a way in which the image is very tantalizingly used in a way that is not just enticing, but also quite mysterious and enigmatic, thus preserving a lot of the sort of the functionality and also the questions that are sure to arise in terms of a watch of Benny's video. So there's the trailer that rounds out the supplements here. And then last but not least, let me just say in conclusion that we will speak about the booklet a little bit later. It does have a page. It has one page devoted to Benny's video right here, or not one page, one short section here devoted to Benny's video. But there's also a comprehensive essay that follows, which is covering all of the works in this trilogy, not just Benny's video. So we will talk a little bit about that essay when we get to it in a later video discussion. But in the meantime, my dear friends, this is a brief discussion on this work, Benny's video, which is part of this set, which is the Michael Haneke trilogy set. This is compelling stuff indeed. Really compelling stuff indeed. It is so great that this Criterion release is made to have these films made available. More Haneke works in the collection, such as these trilogy, these films that form part of this, what is oftentimes referred to or described as a trilogy. And indeed, Benny's video is a very thought-provoking, provocative, challenging work indeed. Very disturbing, intense in a lot of places, much like many of other Haneke's works indeed. So it is another stop along the way in this release, which is Michael Haneke trilogy, and that is the work Benny's video. All right, my dear friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Until the next video, my dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.